Hello, my friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. I hope you guys are doing well. So I just wanted to do a quick video on the prophecy of Hermes. So Hermes is something that's very fascinating to me, as I had shared with you guys that when I was going into third grade, we moved into a new house. And there was a very creepy basement. There was nothing in the house when we moved into it. In the basement, of which part of it had just a dirt floor, there was what looked to be bunk beds built into the basement. And I don't know what they used them for, I guess storage of some kind. But there on one of the bunk beds was a book. And it was Initiation into Hermetics by Franz Barden. And so, here's a little 7-year-old kid looking at this book and not knowing what it says at all, but making his best attempt to read it. And I did over years, and then eventually read it many times and practiced a lot of what was in it. And so Hermeticism comes from Hermes. And Hermes is also known as the Greek god Mercury. So god of communication, wisdom, and many things, actually, and also equated with the Egyptian god Thoth. And also equated with Atlantis and all the mysteries. So the Hermetica are the Egyptian Greek wisdom texts from the 2nd century or earlier, which are mostly presented as dialogues in which a teacher, generally identified as Hermes Trismegistus, which is thrice greatest Hermes, enlightens a disciple. The texts form the basis of Hermeticism, and they discuss the divine, the cosmos, mind, and nature. Some touch upon alchemy, astrology, and related concepts. And this has just always fascinated me. So this is at the root of the Western mystery tradition. Things that were hidden, kept quiet, because, again, of the persecution of the church, the Catholic Church, and just the general mindset back through our history, which was one of, in so many ways with these type of subjects, fear and, forbidden knowledge. You weren't supposed to know the mysteries. That was just given to God and the angels. Man was on a different plane. And if we look into the Sumerian texts, cuneiform writings that go back thousands of years before anything biblical, man was created as a servant to the Anunnaki. So, man was supposed to be just intelligent enough to carry out his duties, and that was it. Now, this is just so interesting. So, again, this is dating to the 2nd century or earlier. And if you look at the book of Revelation, for instance, it's thought to be either a 3rd or 2nd century text. So this could actually predate the book of Revelation and many other scriptural texts that we see. So there will come a time when it will have been in vain that the Egyptians have honored the Godhead with heartfelt piety and service, and all our holy worship will be fruitless and ineffectual. The gods will return from earth to heaven. Egypt will be forsaken, and the land which was once the home of religion will be left desolate, bereft of the presence of its deities. They will no longer love this world around us, this incomparable work of God, this glorious structure which he has built, this sum of good made up of many diverse forms, the instrument whereby the will of God operates in that which he has made, ungrudgingly favoring man's welfare. Darkness will be preferred to light, and death will be thought more profitable than life. No one will raise his eyes to heaven. The pious will be deemed insane, the impious wise, the madman will be thought to be a brave man, and the wicked will be esteemed as good. As for the soul and the belief that it is immortal by nature, or may hope to attain immortality, as I have taught you, all this they will mock, and even persuade themselves that it is false. No word of reverence or piety, no utterance worthy of heaven will be heard or believed. And so the gods will depart from mankind, a grievous thing, and only evil angels will remain, who will mingle with men and drive the poor wretches into all manner of reckless crime, into wars and robberies and frauds, and all things hostile to the nature of the soul. Then the earth will tremble, and the sea bear no ships. Heaven will not support the stars in their orbits. All the voices of the gods will be forced into silence. The fruits of the earth will rot. The soil will turn barren, and the very air will sicken with sullen stagnation. All things will be disordered and awry. All good will disappear. But when all this has befallen, then God, the creator of all things, will look on that which has come to pass, and will stop the disorder by the counterforce of his will, which is good. He will call back to the right path those who have gone astray. He will cleanse the world of evil, washing it away with floods, burning it out with the fiercest fire, and expelling it with war and pestilence. And so, that is the prophecy of Hermes. And a short prophecy to the point. I always found it fascinating. When did the quote-unquote gods leave? And so it's interesting that they talk about the gods in the plural, but they also talk about God the Creator, in the singular, the one God. So the gods, are beings that have a higher intelligence and quote-unquote technology than us. And the only ones left on the planet will be the dark ones, the evil ones. And so this whole time, that's what's ruled the planet and ruled and controlled the hearts and minds of men through everything we talk about every single day. Indoctrination, conditioning, societal conformity. Do you agree?
I do agree, and I really hope that what I'm getting out of this, you guys get out of it, and I'm getting out of it, is that you don't judge yourself. You don't put yourself down. Don't be hard on yourself if things go not the way you had planned, because you weren't given the tools to be maybe a better person. Perhaps we've all been manipulated somehow on this planet.
Most definitely, and you could see this now. In ancient times, there was a library in Alexandria that contained perhaps more wisdom in so many ways than all the libraries we have right now. As we know, our history is compromised, our philosophies, our sciences, and everything. Everything is so twisted because of those that actually control the planet. And so how true, really is what we are taught all the time. And in the Library of Alexandria, it was the storehouse of great wisdom, but it was burnt to the ground and destroyed. And, the Roman Empire has enforced the will of these quote-unquote fallen angels, these dark beings, these malignant forces. And it's not just the Roman Empire, it's, as we've talked about so many times, it's morphed, and it's gone through the Catholic Church and morphed out from there, and the British Empire, and now United States, but also, China is under control of the dragon as well, and China is the new power that is rising, and we are witnessing the beginnings of war on the horizon. And that time period which is spoken of, and we could see how the world is collapsing around us on so many levels right now. And so we've been taught everything that could possibly divide us. And so here I find it very interesting that they're talking about the gods, and there again, it's a label, and they're referring to the benevolent beings that have been talked of in every tradition around the globe, because there are benevolent beings. And we've talked about Mother Shipton's prophecies and how at the end of these times, after the dragon's tail creates havoc on the earth, there are silver ships that land, and there's humanoid beings that come out, very strange, odd beings. And these beings tell us and teach us how to get it right and help us to rebuild once again. And of course, we've talked about the Hopi and their version of the Anunnaki, the Ant Friends, who actually took them down into the earth and saved them from the cataclysms, kept them down there until it was time to come back up. There are legends of Shambhala and Agartha and of inner earth civilizations like Telos all around the world. And it's fascinating, and I really enjoyed I started digging into more of the Cherokee and other indigenous Native Americans beliefs and legends, and seeing that the Cherokee, one time when they were about to be overrun and slaughtered, there were beings that came from inside the earth that came and saved them against a different tribe that was attacking, and then returned into the earth. Our history is so covered up. There is a book called Edidorfa, which is Aphrodite spelled backwards, which is written by John Uri Lloyd back in, I want to say, like somewhere in the 1870s, which I do have a copy of still. And it's all about his visitation. It reads a lot like Charles Dickens, like the Christmas story that we all grew up with, where he's visited by, the ghosts of Christmas, past, present, and future. Well, in this case, it's a strange humanoid being that brings him into one of these inner earth entrances and shows him that there are cities in there, and there's tons of life in there. There's mushrooms that are like 10 feet tall that could feed a whole town. And there is light without there being a sun. And people have lived inside the earth for so long. When you look at the Vikings, and you hear about their legends and Agartha, and where did the gods come from? Well, they came from perhaps up around the North Pole, maybe an entrance into the inner earth, and have been in the inner earth the whole time. So maybe some of these gods, maybe they're inside the earth, and then some maybe are dimensional, and because of our fall, when we look, and we're going to look deeper into the Emerald Tablets of Thoth and really pick them apart in upcoming videos, instead of just lumping it in with this one. I want to really pick them apart in separate videos. But when we look at that as well, we get the idea that we're not doing this for the first time. This has happened before many times. We are something far greater than we realize. Most people don't understand what we are. And, many people have come up with the idea that maybe we are the fallen ones, because maybe we are falling in the idea of falling through densities, because I do believe that Lemuria was like a fifth density civilization, and that we have fallen downwards and spiraled downwards. So this is not the pinnacle of civilization at all. We're kind of at the pinnacle of perhaps the worst manifestation of civilization that we could have in, this horribly corporate, greed-driven, totally reptilian, draconian, satanic system that we are enveloped in. But it's going to end now, and so that we have to take heart in that as we go through the birth pains. Most definitely, these are the birth pains of that new era, that new age that is coming. And birth is not easy.
Oh my gosh. No. And, it's not just about the birth pains, it's about the growing pains too. And that can be quite frightening when we're faced with things that we never understood before, never knew before, that are going to come to and present themselves to us. What do we do with some of this new information? Because I do feel like there's new things on the horizon that we're going to be faced with, and we'll have to deal with it somehow.
And when you delve deep into the Western mystery traditions, as I've said so many times, they are very congruent with what we see in the East, in Taoism, and Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism, and so many other traditions. They do go along, and ultimately, again, God is within us, the kingdom of heaven is within us. We have just not been cultivating it, and it's not even really our fault, so to speak, in that we have been conditioned to look elsewhere, and we have been given a lot of falsehoods, and we have been basically pitted one against the other for the profit of the few. But all those things are going to change now. And the times, well, these are the times that have been spoken about for thousands of years. So we are in for the ride. We understand that. But ultimately, what's going to come is going to be a return to living in harmony with each other and also with Creator and the Creator's creation and Mother Earth.
Absolutely. It's all going to become more enmeshed together. It'll be a beautiful thing.
So guys, thank you so much for your support on YouTube, on BitChute, Brightian, definitely on Patreon, and Ko-Fi has kept us going. As always, God bless and namaste.
Namaste.